For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
This is not America. Sha-la-la-la-la. Little piece of you.
Welcome to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor, and my co-host is Leland. Are you there, Leland?
I'm here.
Did you remember to take your seat today? Put on your headphones?
Only because I had a little card here that reminded me to take the seat.
You, of course.
Otherwise,
you might not have known. Yeah,
I might have gone right instead of left. I don't know.
All right. Let's get started. This has been a bad week for liberals.
It has.
It has.
The Supreme Court rocks.
Yeah. Well, we had two momentous decisions, and one pretty much ended gun control as we know it, and the other one is ended the reign of Roe v. Wade and Casey, and the abortion on demand mandated by the courts and not by legislatures.
Exciting.
So those were exciting, yes.
Very exciting.
Yeah, so the hoes were mad after the Roe v. Wade.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah, they were out there twerking and shouting and screaming and.
What else are they doing?
Putting their faces on TikTok, making all kinds of grimaces. I think they trapped the Arizona legislature for a while, and they set a couple of fires.
2 nights in a row.
2 nights in a row.
Yep.
We're changing people's lives.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And what the Supreme Court has done is really groundbreaking. This week will be remembered. This session will be remembered for quite some time. The Second Amendment ruling, of course, also got the hoes mad. The governor of New York, Hochul, and the mayor of New York City, Adams, were very, very upset. They were out there saying all kinds of bad things about what it's going to mean for the people of New York, especially this idea that it's going to turn New York into the Wild West.
Yeah.
You know?
Because we don't want people carrying guns.
No. Only the police can carry guns.
I'm telling you, they can't dig themselves a deep enough hole, can they?
No.
They really don't know how to get out of their own way.
No, they don't.
They're destroying the state. They're going to make, it unlikely that people will consider New York as a destination for tourism, which is their bread and butter. I mean, I can't imagine a more complicit group of people destroying their own state from within,
Well, Mayor Lightfoot used the F word to against
they're a close second over there.
Against Justice Thomas, and there were 25 murders in Chicago over the weekend. So
inconceivable.
Yeah.
Now, the subway killer was the last great example. I may have mentioned this, but
Which one?
The last one with the black supremacist.
Oh, yeah, right.
The news dropped off as soon as they found out he was black.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't hear much more about him.
Yep.
But he put out a smoke bomb and shot wounded. I don't think he killed anybody. Typical black shooter, I guess.
Yeah, right. Just spray and hope something hits.
Yeah. But they stocked up on police for that, and all the police did was issue a lot more turnstile jumping tickets, but they couldn't stop this guy.
Well, there are now 2,000 less police in force
in New York. Yeah, well, they're
since over last year.
Yeah,
year over year.
They're quitting, or yeah. It's not a good scene there.
I am out of here.
You're going to treat me like that? I'm not going to stick around.
What am I doing here?
Just check your card. That's all you have to do.
Well, I did have some reaction of my own to the Roe v. Wade decision. And although it's a Federalist decision, and I think that's good, I think it was basically the right decision. It's just that, Alito did not recognize the common law when in his briefs, which were presented to him by different organizations.
Should have given you a call.
Yeah. According to the common law, and they even said this in Roe v. Wade, they said we perused the common law, but did not even recognize an abortion as occurring at early stages. Under the common law, William Blackstone is the widely read authority. His commentaries on the law of England, first published in 1765, said life begins in contemplation of law as soon as an infant is able to stir in the mother's womb. Under the common law, Blackstone explained, legal penalties for abortion only occurred if a woman is quick with child, and by a potion or otherwise killeth it in her womb.
Killeth it?
Killeth it. That was the way they spoke back then. Now, George Washington also,
back then.
Yeah.
They don't talk like that now. God, I wish they would.
Not unless they have a lisp. Killeth it. The quickening was also recognized by George Washington in one of his talks, or in his writings, but don't forget that Martha Washington was a healer. I would be very surprised if Martha Washington never mixed a potion, as Blackstone put it, for a woman in need. So I think those states that are going to try to outlaw it completely, good luck. Like Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park, life will find a way, and so will death.
Well, yeah, right. And that's how the framers intended it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
The states are supposed to compete.
Right.
I heard the word federalism used very sparingly during this entire announcement.
Really?
By our side of the narrative.
I did hear it used on Fox.
Here and there, but not enough.
Yeah.
Because I think the American people need to understand what that word means.
Exactly.
States' rights are significant. And that's the framers' view of the United States of America as they intended it. So let's talk about this and let's celebrate this and never back away from its understanding.
You got it.
Unable to listen to the whole show, a recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast button. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. My co-host is Leland Faegre.
Guess who had a particularly difficult COVID experience?
Who?
Frankenstein himself.
Frankenstein?
Fauci.
Oh, Fauci.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a rough time, huh?
Yeah, he had a tough episode.
Maybe he wasn't vaccinated.
Well, he said he did everything right. He finished the 5 days of Paxlovid. I reverted to negative on an antigen test for 3 days in a row. And then on the fourth day, just to be absolutely certain, I'm quoting him here, I reverted back to positive. This is becoming more and more typical based on more clinical studies. It's a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive, isn't it? Isn't it nice that it comes back to him, of all people? Yeah.
Yeah, you mean that's karma? What goes
yeah,
through him,
of course
through
it
him?
is. Of course it is, yeah.
Paxlovid, that's getting a lot of bad reviews. That's beginning to look like a grift, too, for another, mercantilistic get rich for Pfizer. Pfizer is Israeli. Do you know that? There happens to be a Jewish company.
Are we starting our Jews in the news segment now?
Well, you almost can't avoid it.
I know, that's true.
So also, speaking of Jews. You know, the remnant of the Jew coup
Yeah.
is holding hearings
Uh-huh.
against Trump, trying to, tarnish Donald Trump's good name, as it were.
The show trial.
Yeah, the show trial.
Mhm.
No cross-examination. No Republicans except for a couple of quislings on the committee.
And a scripted, choreographed, and well-rehearsed testimony yesterday. Remember, she raised her right hand and swore to tell the truth, right?
Yeah, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
But
You think Merrick Garland would investigate her testimony?
you would think, yeah. But Bongino says the whole thing is rubbish, absolute rubbish, from beginning to the end. He knows these Secret Service agents that she referenced in her testimony.
Uh-huh.
He's known them for 20 years. And so he knows better. He knows this is not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
Oh, hell no!
and yet they stage this for the narrative
Uh-huh.
on CNN and MSNBC because they need that propaganda network to sell their story, their narrative. And this is what we get when we go into a voting booth and pick these people. The good news is that Trump made some very significant victories last night. Cheney will be gone by November. She's not going anywhere. And we're just in a very, very excitable time, I think. You know, we have to look at this very positively because it's going our way. We should recognize that. And they do. They understand that.
Mm-hmm.
This is CNN.
What is CNN? It's hard to tell what CNN is.
It's what they say it is.
Yeah.
So the testimony yesterday nourishes them in the discussion of this episode, this show trial. And that's what it's designed to do. They have to have something to talk about. Their 500,000 viewers, that's what they have.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have the airports anymore, right?
No.
They lost the airport.
They lost the airports. They're probably still in the ICU wards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably where it belongs, actually.
Yes.
But this Cassidy Hutchinson was an aide, apparently, to Meadows. Nobody knows who she was. I think they picked her because she was an attractive spokesperson for their cause, you know, and she scripted it very well, rehearsed it very well, and that's what went down yesterday. But you notice she blinked all through it.
Was she a heavy blinker?
And you know, and people who understand this stuff understand that when people are blinking,
it's a tell.
They're lying.
It's a tell.
Yes.
We don't know. We don't know.
So it's important if you see these kinds of things, turn the volume down and just look at it without sound, and you'll see.
Yeah. And they often touch their nose or rub other body
They're
parts. There are other tells, you can find.
But the big one is when they blink a lot.
Yeah.
Adam Schiff is perfect example of that.
Yeah, but he must be used to lying. I mean, doesn't he?
Well, I think they get comfortable lying. Yeah. But the body language is instinctive. It's nothing they can control.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
involuntary movement.
Yeah, it's reflexive.
Mm-hmm.
We choose truth over facts.
I'd take either one from that guy. Huh?
Yeah, so like you were saying, Trump would have had to push past not only one but two Secret Service agents to grab the wheel.
Oh, it's physically impossible what she's suggesting. Mm. Yeah, he couldn't have reached the driver from the back seat where he sits. Plus, as you mentioned, there's a Secret Service agent between them. So he would have had to have worked his way through the first Secret Service agent to get to the clavicle of the second Secret Service agent. But Bongino says the whole thing is just completely without credibility at all.
But even if he did take the wheel and go back to the demonstration, that's what it was about, right?
Well, he said the claim is from her yesterday, from Hutchinson, was that he wanted to go by the Capitol on his way to the White House. That makes sense. He might have wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was going to grab a bullhorn and tell the people to storm the gates.
No, he just rolled down his window and wave on his way back to the White House. Because after all, Pence was going to send that certification back to the states, right?
He's on fire!
Yes, he was going to send that certification back to the states where it belonged. That's what we all hoped.
Mhm.
Yeah. And should have been done. Yes, it would have been unprecedented, of course.
There was some precedent.
I
mean,
think Jefferson had a similar situation way back.
way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a similar one in the late 19th century with
I think
Benjamin
there was.
Harrison, I
Yep.
think?
And I think it could have been, those episodes could have been invoked by Pence.
He doesn't have that kind of
He-
imagination
No, or strength.
or strength. Yeah. When he was in Indiana, he made a big deal about religious freedom, and he folded when the corporations asked
Yeah,
him to.
he's fine as a governor. That's fine. Go back to the States and
Uh-huh.
he's all right.
Nope.
But we don't want him in the executive branch.
No, we don't.
So
And it's
Nope.
not. And it's not because he, is so studiously avoids any perception of affection with his wife. That's up to him.
yeah, that's fine.
But
yeah.
it's
Fine.
but
Yeah.
it's he didn't show any imagination when Kim's sister showed up at the Olympics. He just stood there like a cigar store Indian.
He's pretty robotic.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not. I wouldn't vote for him if he does run in the primary against Trump. I don't know.
Nope.
Not during
Nope.
not in the primary. No, he wouldn't
No.
survive that. No.
No.
But we did well last night
Yeah, we
in
did.
the primaries. Yeah.
Yes.
Trump endorsements work. That Mary Miller in Southern Illinois that he went to stump for this past weekend, she won, and she won very comfortably. That was
Good.
going to be a tough race. It looked like a tough race.
Well,
but-
Southern Illinois is conservative. Did she have a Rhino opponent?
yeah. Uh-huh.
So
The
that's
message is there. It's getting through to the body
Mhm.
politic. It's very exciting. We should be happy about all these developments. Yeah.
well, we're certainly happy that Trump appointed the Supreme Court judges.
That too.
Yeah.
That's
That-
a lasting legacy.
Yes, it is.
Long after Trump is no longer with us, we're going to have
Uh-huh.
those judges and his appointments to benefit the body politic.
He will be immortal. Maybe they'll raise a statue to him, and then in the future generation, the woke mob will have
Well,
to tear it down.
Now, I think you're dreaming there, but we should hope for it.
Okay.
We should be so lucky.
Yeah.
Did you see that Elias has received a spanking from the Supreme Court also in that redistricting case? Did you
Uh-huh.
hear about that one?
No, I didn't get that one.
Well, we don't have time to go into detail here, but I mean, it looks like all of these decisions that are coming out are benefiting our side and revealing them for who they are.
Yeah. There's an EPA decision coming out.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But that people are saying that may be very narrowly drawn and won't really affect the EPA as an institution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kavanaugh is supposed to be against the administrative state, especially executive branch offices that do not answer to the president. He wants a completely unified executive. So that would even include the Federal Reserve, if he's serious.
Yeah, I guess it would, except that the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. It shouldn't exist in the first
Anyway.
place. So, yeah, until we can get rid of it,
Yeah.
sure. Same with public schools.
Exactly.
Harden them up until we get rid of them, until we can find a buyer to sell them off to. So that was one of Harry Brown's planks.
Sure.
Sell it off, find a buyer.
Yeah. For the federal lands, too.
From the into the private sector. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be here talking about how drastically failed they've been if that had happened when Harry Brown suggested it a generation ago.
Right. I know people in America are so attuned to the public school system, but in other countries, they know that the public schools are lazy, incompetent, and they prefer to send their children to private schools. Even in India, I understand.
Even where they can least afford it. Yeah.
Yes. They manage to scrape together a couple of bucks a week, and the private schools don't have to be expensive. They're only expensive now because
Unions
of history. Yeah.
Unions have gotten into it. Yeah, it's a disaster. It can't be saved. Oh, look at the phones light up. Sounds Jewish.
Okay.
Should we sing along? I'm tempted.
Yeah. Well, it's time for another Jews in the News here on Talking Truth to Power. And I think we should give the new Ministry of Truth disclaimer.
A new disclaimer?
Yes.
Okay.
Vladimir Putin is an evil man and a brutal aggressor. There were no other reasons for the war, and anyone who suggests otherwise is a tool of Russian propaganda. Now, Ukraine, that's a bastion of freedom and democracy, and the West, indeed the entire global community, has a moral obligation to come to the country's defense. Indeed, Putin's assault on Ukraine poses a potentially lethal threat to democracy throughout the whole system. We have to admit that. Well, after the Gentile heads of state from France, Germany, Romania, and the UK came to cheer up Zelensky last week, the Jews started arriving in Kiev.
That's why we're having this segment, right?
Yes, exactly. So U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, Garfinkel, arrived first. He is the Attorney General of the United States who happens to be Jewish. He says his grandparents emigrated to America from Russia's Pale of Settlement before World War I to escape anti-Semitism. He pledged U.S. taxpayer resources to investigate war crimes. So, and then when all the cool kids come to Kiev, Zelensky takes them to Bucha, where the alleged war crimes committed by those brutal Huns, the Russians, occurred outside of Kiev. Mean people. And the fact is, of course, that most commentators, independent commentators, think that these crimes were actually committed by the Ukrainian forces. And one reason is that during the war, in order to distinguish what side you're on, civilians would wear a white armband if they were for Russia, a blue armband if they were for Ukraine. And most of the people that were killed in Bucha were killed wearing white armbands. So why would Russia kill its own supporters?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So the government of Ukraine under Zelensky and his predecessor Poroshenko have in fact been documented by the Organization for the Security and Cooperation of Europe, which is a good organization which has been completely supplanted by NATO. It still exists, but it's reduced to minor status.
It doesn't get a lot of attention anymore.
No.
It never got a lot of attention, but
Right.
less so now.
And another study by the UN Commission on Human Rights. So the larger question then is, why is the U.S. Attorney General pledging U.S. resources in a foreign nation's border dispute with a nuclear superpower?
Because it can.
Because...
Oh, there's more to it than that?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it can. And Ukraine is the poorest, most corrupt nation in Europe with the lowest per capita income, but the biggest gap between rich and poor. In other words, it's a nation of greedy oligarchs, most of whom happen to be Jewish.
That's where the aid went.
Yeah.
That's where our aid went. Those
Exactly.
aid packages you keep hearing about, billions here, billions there,
Yep,
lining the pockets of the oligarchs.
exactly.
Whatever, I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
One example, of course, is the weapons, like Macron sent two state-of-the-art, president of France sent a couple of state-of-the-art tanks to the Ukraine over the objection of his cabinet. And within days, they were in Russian hands.
Well, I was just going to say, I was just about to say, did it get there?
They were probably sold on the black market,
Yeah.
and they're now in Siberia.
Sure.
And thank you very much, President Macron. But what Merrick Garland is really is illustrative of Jewish control over the heights of power in Western democracies. Democracy, remember what Ezra Pound, of course, Ezra Pound was a notorious anti-Semite, despite being the most prolific and probably greatest poet of the 20th century. But Ezra Pound once said, democracy is just another word for government run by Jews.
By the way, you mentioned Macron, and before we move on there, I wanted to call your attention to that clip yesterday. Did you see that, where Macron caught up with Biden?
Oh, yes, and told him that Saudi Arabia did not have enough oil to cover the deficit.
To cover
the lack of Russian oil.
You know, it was clearly designed for public consumption.
Yeah.
And yet they said, "Oh, let's take this conversation else." They knew the cameras were rolling.
Yeah.
It was designed for us to hear. You know,
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Yep. That's it. I'm going to need some tissue for that. That is just so funny. We have to laugh at this guy. What else are we going to do? We sat or cry. You know?
Even Kamala broke a smile.
Yeah. And there she is now.
All right. So
they took the conversation inside because they
Yes.
didn't want to share it with us. You know? But they'd already done so.
Yeah.
It's completely scripted.
Then after Merrick Garland came, actor Ben Stiller, who also happens to be Jewish, and he's a very brilliant and funny man. He's a sort of an honorary UN High Commissioner for Human Rights spokesperson.
Doesn't he think that Zelensky's a hero?
He thinks he's a hero, yes.
That's what I thought.
But when you look into his background, you find out that his father was also a well-known comedian, Jerry Stiller. You know that redheaded guy? He yells a lot.
He died not too many years ago now, just a couple of years.
Just a couple of years ago, yeah. But the Stiller family, by some other coincidence, emigrated from Galicia, which is Western anti-Russian Ukraine. You think that has anything to do with
No, I don't think that has anything
No,
to do.
obviously not. So does Stiller speak out about the human rights abuses in Israel against the Palestinians?
I'm guessing he does not.
Or in Yemen?
Nope.
Nope.
So Ukraine has been systematically violating the human rights of its own citizens because it still claims the people in the Donbass are its citizens, but it's been violating their rights for over a decade. And it is Ukraine that is in violation of the UN Charter's rights of minorities with their ethnic cleansing for over 8 years. So, but there's never any mention in the Western press.
Never comes up.
No.
Not part of the narrative.
No.
All the news that fits except that.
Yes. So we have some other key players that we should mention because obviously it's becoming more and more apparent that there's some kind of Jewish connection with what's going on in Ukraine.
Is there?
We never hear of it. But
Oh, hell no!
Remember Victoria Nuland, the cookie lady?
Do I?
She's still in office, and her portfolio is regime overthrow in Russia. That's what she's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what?
She'll be left waiting on that one.
She's also a Ukrainian Jew from Russian-hating Galicia,
Oh, yeah.
Western Ukraine.
Sure.
Adam Schiff. Guess what? Adam Schiff is also Jewish, and he is descended from the Schiff banking family who were responsible for bringing the communists to Russia.
$20 million worth of gold into the Russian Revolution.
But Schiff says we have to fight the Russians over there, so we don't have to fight them over here.
Aren't you just tired of that one? I mean, honestly, can't they come up with something else?
He's on fire!
That's all they have.
Don't forget Vindeman.
Oh yeah, no, I can't
Secretary
forget
of Ukrainian Defense,
Yep.
General Vindeman.
I'm sure he'll be.
He's been
Yeah,
a person of grievance for as long as I've known him. Resentment, grievance, anger.
Yep. Well, that was for Clarence Thomas, but it applies probably better to
Yeah, I mean the
better
real.
to Adam Schiff than anybody.
Yeah. Now here's a mental picture. Most people think the Jews are about, there's about 15 million to maybe 25 million Jews. So why do we take a country that has that many people? Well, let's pick Somalia.
Okay.
Suppose every Jewish politician, judge, bureaucrat, high-tech magnate, slick attorney, hedge fund manager, etc., instead of looking white, actually looks Somalian. Then do you think Americans would notice what's happening to their country and their culture?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'd like to think so. Yeah. But I'm just not sure.
Nope.
You know, I owned a restaurant in Zephyr Cove for 6 years.
Oh, yeah?
And I'll bet you I can count on one hand the intelligent conversations I had in that bar. You know, I would approach news just like we do here on the show and just throw it out there and, you know, see what you get, you know. I'll bet you on one hand.
At one hand, you can count the number of people that
that
understood what was going on.
That could engage, yeah.
No?
That's troublesome.
And
you know, it wasn't like that when we were seeking independence.
Yes, it wasn't.
From the crown.
People read the federal paper.
Yeah.
Are you shy? Don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
All right. Welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. My co-host is Leland Faegre. We were talking about the Jewish connection in Ukraine, which you're not going to hear about even on Fox or Newsmax or any of those other stations. So who else that's involved in Ukraine is Jewish? Well, most of the oligarchs running the country are Jewish, and the Jews like their oligarchs because Jewish charity is primarily directed towards other Jews. So whatever Jewish oligarchs are a way of siphoning money off from the Gentiles and
Protecting their
transferring
own.
it to the Jews.
Sure.
Yes. Now, the Jews have a slippery slope argument regarding anybody that's hostile to them. So, according to their logic, criticism of Jews indicates dislike of Jews. This leads to hostility towards Jews, which leads to Hitler, and eventually to mass murder. Therefore, all criticism of Jews must be suppressed.
Does it lead to white supremacy as well?
Well, white supremacy, yeah, they go hand in glove, I'm sure.
Oh, hell no.
So with this kind of logic, you can just simply dismiss arguments about Palestinian rights on the West Bank and
Sure.
Gaza because
Sure.
the survival of Israel is at stake.
Mm-hmm.
And Jews take criticism of one individual Jew, even, the fact that a Jewish singer gets panned, for her performance or something like that. Criticism of one Jew is criticism of Jews as a whole.
A Jewish singer was panned for her performance?
Well, occasionally.
Oh, it was just a hypothetical?
Yeah,
Oh,
hypothetical.
okay.
Yeah.
You know the thing.
But some people can't stand Barbara Streisand, for example.
I don't like Barbara Streisand.
So you're obviously anti-Semitic.
No, she's in the news today
Is she?
because of Cassidy, what's her name, Hutchinson's testimony yesterday before the January 6th.
So what does she have to say about
Oh,
it?
it was just revisiting the whole thing, how much she hates Trump and all that. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's just... I'll get the quote here. You can continue.
Right. So if you criticize any individual Jew for anything, even if it's not politics or ethnicity, the slippery slope to Hitler has been slipped on. Now, Jews historically often exhibit extreme paranoia, and because whatever negative circumstances they find themselves in is much, much worse than they are or turn out to be. So they have paranoia, which leads to faulty conclusions about other people's motivations. They are quick to impugn the character of anyone at the slightest perceived offense. This leads to the most unfair and grossest of accusations, anti-Semitism being the most common, and that can be a canceling event, as we see more and more. And you know, in North Korea, you can't criticize the Kim family, right?
Right.
But in the West, you must not criticize the Jews, because that's Hitler.
Big club, and you ain't in it.
Yep, and they're going to come after you.
Now, the history is a little bit complicated, but Jews essentially claim that great atrocities were committed against them in both Russia and Poland simply because of their Jewish ethnicity or religion. So these pogroms were instituted by the Russian and Polish governments, according to the common story, and they targeted Jews in the most inhumane ways. The persecutions were also carried out by local villagers, you know, grab the pitchforks and torches, you know. So as a result, Jews were driven from their homes and businesses, and they suffered greatly at the hands of Russian and Polish Christians. Well, the common assumption that persecution of Jews always stems from irrational hatred, when in fact the documented evidence done by independent investigators strongly suggests that most of it is due to tensions between competing ethnic groups. Usury, fraud, and various forms of thievery, multiple financial schemes that Jews engage in invariably provoke a backlash, one that sometimes leads to violence. When Catherine the Great broke up the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and Russia absorbed part of Poland, Poland was a Catholic nation, but 20% Jewish. You know, New York City is 12% Jewish, and look what's going on there.
Yeah.
It's very rare to have any kind of polity that is 20% Jewish. So Russia took in the Jews, but has had a difficult relation with them. Now, we've talked before about the 6 million figure from the Holocaust, and that the expression really, it was repeatedly employed by Jews even in before World War I, when there were not 6 million Jews in Russia.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that the number is inflated.
Yes, so symbolic, mystical, and Kabbalistic significance to the number 6 million may seem to the Jews, they may understand it's really symbolic, but it's not permissible for non-Jews to ever suggest that. They must interpret it literally. No deviation is permitted. The double standard is obvious. So the main point about Ukraine and the Jews is that 80% of today's Western diaspora Jews, in other words, Jews that fled anti-Semitism in Europe and Russia, are descendants of those Jews who left Russia and its environs during the period 1880 to 1910, which is basically what Merrick Garland says his family left Russia for. But perhaps the most lasting legacy of the period was the enhancement of Jewish national self-awareness and the accelerated development of modern international Jewish politics.
Shut up and take my money.
It's pretty interesting, and the role that Stalin played in all of that, and this morning's announcement kind of ties it all together. NATO has announced it will move troops to the western border of Ukraine.
Yeah,
wow.
In Poland, right?
Poland and Ukraine, yeah.
In Ukraine. Well, there's Poland, then there's Slovakia, and then there's Hungary.
All it takes is a stray missile.
Exactly. They've come within a few miles, 20
already.
kilometers of Poland.
And Russia claims that attack on the shopping mall yesterday was meant for an arsenal that went astray, which is probably true.
Well, also, it happened at night. There was no way there was 1,000 people in there. Russia claims that the shopping mall has been unused for 4 months. Now, there's a vlogger named I.L. Gray Earl Grey. He vlogs. You can see his vlogs on YouTube. He actually went to the equivalent of Yelp, to look up all the stores in the shopping mall.
Mm-hmm.
None of them had any comments later than 4 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, in other words, the Russian claim, it's not proof,
So
but it suggests that it
it's
was an empty mall.
Inoperable.
Right. So whether the missile hit it or they hit the factory, he also showed a photograph of the factory, and it's quite a imposing place. It's very likely there were munitions there that exploded.
So this is Zelensky's public relations campaign again.
Exactly. That's the Zelensky government is nothing but one big PR propaganda mill. That's all it is.
I'm telling you, they should write a book on how well they've accomplished this. It's swayed the entire world.
Exactly. And that's why he keeps attacking Snake Island. They tried another attack on Snake Island.
It worked so well the first time.
And they keep getting repelled. The Russians have it's just a hunk of rock. I mean, it has. I don't think it is that
There's
much.
nothing there, is there?
Well, now there are Russian air defense
Since
systems
then,
there,
that point.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
No. I don't know that it's really key to Odessa, the capture of Odessa or anything. It's way south of Odessa.
Sure it is, yeah.
But anyway, the second to last time they were repulsed, that's when they got frustrated and attacked the oil platform in the middle of the Black Sea. So, when you think about Sean Hannity and how he unabashedly backs Ukraine, doesn't he know he has no idea what's going on there?
I think the media has backed off of that support.
You think a little bit?
Yeah, I don't see it as obvious as it once was. But
well, the New York Times just admitted that the CIA and NATO commandos are heavily involved in the war.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
All on we knew this. I mean, they were provoking Putin.
Uh-huh.
And now it's clear to everyone who can see that who was responsible for that provocation. It was the Central Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. This is what we put them in the field to do: create wars.
Exactly. Yep.
Since 1947.
Well, since the Dulles brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that 47?
47
when they
it
started?
came into existence. Yeah.
The National Security Act, was it?
I think it was
under
yeah.
Truman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about right.
And Truman,
changing people's lives.
Yeah, and Truman later regretted the fact that the law came into existence.
Oh, sure, they always do after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like Eisenhower regretted the military-industrial complex, but they're still with us.
Right. They're still there. No government agency ever has sunsetted out of existence, that's for sure.
Nope.
Nope.
Ain't gonna happen. No way.
Oh, hell no.
You see that the revised first quarter number for the economy is now contracted by 1.6%. So it's worse than it was. So, and we're just a week or two off from the next second quarter announcement. So that's not good.
What is it? 2 quarters?
Two consecutive quarters. Yeah.
Negative growth
Mm-hmm.
is a recession.
Mm-hmm. So we're there.
Yeah.
But you know who won last night?
No.
That Lauren Boebert out of Colorado. It was a campaign by Democrats to register Republicans to get rid of them. Failed. Just one more reason to be excited about these developments.
Yeah.